I am a Daft dope. I am an idiot of the first order. Aha. Yes. Come to think of it, I'm an idiot of the second and third order. I just did a terrific rant only to find out I hadn't switched on the microphone. Daft, idiotic, yeah, real chump. This is admitting that he's a chump. Keith Hayes with Rouser Radio, coming out of Lewes in East Sussex at what I should have been at 6:30 in the morning, and it's not, it's now 6:50. Check your watches to make sure that's the time where you are. I'm in such a daft mood this morning that I'm capable of any mistakes. Any mistakes at all. Just sheer and utter stupidity. And I shall say that on the little chat thing that we've got here. Damn stupid Hayes. There, I've admitted it. Ah, dear, how can you do these things when you do it morning after morning after morning, and then you suddenly turn around and you do, Rouser You Dope. That's what I said. Damn stupid Hayes. Ah, well, terribly sorry, but now we're underway with Ben Sound and Buddy. Excellent people at Ben Sound who let us use their music, and Buddy is one of my favourites and has been for a number of years, and I use it whenever I can. And I give credit to Ben Sound, which they ask for, and they are due, because they really are very good, and the music on their site is very good and very usable. That's also true of YouTube. Their audio library is excellent. And those are some of the tunes that we play on this programme. They don't get wide usage, but some of them are very good, and they're from untried composers who want us to hear their music, and indeed we do. I'm hiccuping. I don't know why. Never mind. We are in dreadful muck this morning because I'd really waxed lyrical. I had mentioned that on Mirador Television, on the Mirador Round Table, which we do on a Sunday night and post on a Monday, we discussed the role of media in the UK and America, for that matter, because we go to America. We have two Americans on our show, the lovely Melissa and the lovely Suzanne, and they are worth listening to, believe me. Very lovely ladies. And then we shouldn't forget that we've got Annie at this end too. I mean, she's a lovely lady as well, but she's she's not. Well, she is a Brit, yes, although not born here. But anyway, in that we discussed the role of the media during coronavirus, and came to the conclusion that it isn't all that it's cracked up to be, and that media really needs to get a grip nowadays and improve its role. Not rely as much on the internet as it does, pulling stuff down unchecked. But by the same token, we are still happy to have a relatively free press. A free press is absolutely key to the democratic process. You can't have democracy without a free press. But that press, that media, must have responsibility. And sometimes that's missing, and it's a pity, because the press and the media is under attack again in several parts of the world. Certainly in Hong Kong, where the riots against the government are being cracked down very severely. Journalists are being either put into the jug or managing to get over the border, although getting over the border from Hong Kong is out of the frying pan into the fire. But the other place that it's burst out is in Belarus. which to some extent people have said should be part of the EU. Well, I think it's going to stay very close to its Russian cousins. And I don't say that with any disparagement at all. I love the Russians. I think they're terrific people. I'm not so sure about their governance, but nonetheless. But in Belarus, it is described as the world's last dictatorship. And they are hauling people off the streets. Protesters are being cracked over the head. And, of course, the journalists have to go to jail because dictatorships don't want the world to know what's going on. So, very much under threat, the media. So we have this dilemma. Do we have a bad media in a free society and welcome it? Or do we have a good media in a bad society and support it? Shouldn't we have a good media in a free society and everybody would benefit? I actually spent time in Vilnius, in Lithuania, only a few years ago. I went there half a dozen or a dozen or so times, I think, to train journalists who were mostly brought across the border covertly. They were going on holiday or whatever from Belarus, from Minsk. And it was impossible for us to train media in Minsk because we would all have been locked up. Not that that would have bothered me particularly, but there's no point in going there just to be locked up. So we had groups of journalists come over the border and we gave them training. Now, in the main, they were very open-minded. There were one or two who took the communist point of view or the dictatorial point of view, the autocratic point of view, and it was very difficult to persuade them otherwise. Generally speaking, they were not the young, spirited journalists that we were used to. But that training, I'm sure that journalists who undertook that, who I would have considered companions for a while in Vilnius, a lovely, lovely city, by the way, a lovely, lovely town. The old town is absolutely magnificent. When we're all back travelling again, don't miss Vilnius. Put it on your list. Very worthwhile going to. Very worthwhile. However, some of those journalists, I am sure, are now practicing journalists in Belarus, and I hope that they're able to stay out of jail. But I hope that they don't give way to their principles. The big problem with the free press is that many people wallow, many journalists, many commentators wallow in the fact that they do have the freedom to more or less say what they wish. In most developed countries where they've had a free press for quite some time, it is understood that with freedom goes responsibility. Well, the trouble is, of course, it doesn't. Responsibility goes out of the window, as witnessed by a number of journalists and newspapers and so on when we went through the scandal of the mobile phone tapping just a few years ago. But when I was training people in parts of the old Soviet Union, the new CIS, they felt very much that they were able to say what they wanted to, without any sort of sense of responsibility. And they were hounding people out of jobs for silly reasons, because they were still mixed in their thinking. If a company made a profit, it was corrupt. That was their vision of what had been happening in the West, is that businesses made a profit and they were corrupt. So they hounded people out of office. And of course the economy suffered. And I have to say that the Western nations that were there were so busy piddling around, making sure that cultural things happened. Important, yes. But they took an eye off the ball. They didn't understand what was happening and how society was being undermined by a free media that didn't understand it had a responsibility. So, it's a very difficult question. And I've been rabbiting on now for 10 minutes. Wow, I better play something, hadn't I? I didn't put any new stuff up today, so let's just go and check a couple of things. The Golden Present. I don't know what that's about. Let's give it a try. That is part of a much, much longer track. Pleasant. Don't think it'll stick with me. Don't know that it's something that I would want to listen to necessarily again, but obviously a good deal of thought and musical talent has been put into that. Now, the other thing that is beginning to really wear on my nerves, and I think is wearing on everybody else's nerves, and that is that nobody can quite come to grips with the present crisis. Headlines yesterday: new vaccine, we'll all be vaccinated after Christmas, won't happen again. Then stories this morning that we'll never get rid of the virus, that it's going to stay around, that life is never going to be changed. News that perhaps we seem to have contained it in the main here, but there are outbreaks all over the country, and that other countries, notably the United States and a number of other countries around the world, have now got a surge, more than